Hello. Sorry, I'm trying to get my PowerPoints to play. Okay. So, hi everyone. Welcome to week one. Hopefully, you watch I posted a just general overview video. I will each week, my goal is always to have them posted by Monday morning, post just about a 10-minute video, sort of talking about what we're talking about this week, kind of just trying to pull kind of themes together, high level issues. So, this week really is setting the foundation of sort of understanding sort of what fundraising is. Another common term that you hear a lot is fund development. I was just at a meeting. We were doing some board training, and the trainer was talking about how even terminology is changing in fund development. And so this week, your readings sort of give an overview of sort of like what fundraising is, kind of what even nonprofits are, a history of philanthropy, a history of giving. And again, and I said this in our intro video, while we're going to talk a lot in the context of nonprofit because that's who needs to raise funds, there are other areas where fundraising is a big thing. So what I wanted to do, and obviously one of the challenges of teaching a class like this is it takes a while for books to get published. It takes a while for academic journals to go through the process, the research to get done. So I wanted to give as up-to-date kind of statistics and ideas of what we're looking at as we can. So that's what I'm going to try to do today. First, though, I think, when we're talking about nonprofit, I think, and there's nonprofit, not for profit, people use the word charity. There's non-governmental organizations, but in general, the definition of a nonprofit is it works like business organizations to use resources widely, but goal is not profit. Goal is charity or some other good deed. And so we have lots of examples. U.S. Marines, Toys for Tots, churches, many hospitals are actually nonprofit organizations. There are a few for-profit hospitals. I think one of the things to remember too is that there are more nonprofit organizations than you probably actually realize. Individuals can start nonprofit organizations, but they do need to have this goal. The other thing is, I think there's a myth that they can make no profit. And once I had delved more into the world of this, that actually many organizations do sometimes make a profit because they're either through fundraising or they even charge for some of their services. But that money, rather than increasing the wealth of the owner of the nonprofit or stakeholders, that money is reinvested into the organization. So it's just sort of a really different way of looking at it. So just to kind of give an overview of, and let me move my face out of the way here, of nonprofits in the US. These were from, I think these were 2019 statistics, perhaps 2020. Some of them say it here. But anyways, in the US, there are 1.6 million registered 501c, which is the designation that has to do with the tax code. So a big thing about being a nonprofit organization is that they are tax exempt. And this is sort of the government's way of helping these organizations because they are providing needed services and doing good for the world. So they do not pay taxes like a regular business would. This is fascinating to me. The charitable sector is the third largest workforce in the US. And so again, when you think about it, we'll think about hospitals. Technically, those are all employees. We have tons of volunteers. And the other thing I just really want to stress, and throughout this course, is how generous people are. So charitable giving in 2016 was $390 billion, which is a 2.7 increase. And that number continues to rise every single year, despite often poor economic conditions. Oops. The other thing, so we talked about how many there were. Here's just a breakdown of sort of what sort of areas these things are in. So you see the biggest one, and I think a lot of times when we think about nonprofit, we think about that is human services. So these are things like homeless shelters, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, YWCA, all those things. Hospitals would be in health. but Red Cross, those kind of things. We have art, culture, and humanities, so many theaters. Education is huge. A public university, for example, operates as a nonprofit institution. Public and societal benefit, international foreign affairs, environment, religious related, public. So, as you can see, lots of different areas. And I think that's another thing that I love about kind of the nonprofit world. And especially if you're looking to fundraise or get involved, is you can kind of choose something in your interest. So 2019, you see our numbers already up to $449.64 billion. Now, that is not just individual giving. This is total giving. But again, look at the individual giving makes up 69% of that money. Corporations, while they give large chunks often when they're donating, that makes up only 5%. Bequests, that's when someone like leaves their estate. And then we have foundations that people set up, and then those foundations often will issue money in the form of grants. Average donation amount by type of organization. So as you can see, this is looking at, and sorry, that got cut off. Like they look at, and I think this is across individuals or an organization. Notice the higher education here. And this again was something that always amazes me, that higher education brings in a lot of money, because alumni want to give back to their institution, and it's used in a lot of different ways. So this was for 2000, overall giving grew 4.1% from double the donation. Another interesting thing is online revenue increased by 23%, up 15%. So the ways that people are giving are changing, and I'm sure you're aware of, and that's one of the things we're going to talk a lot about in this class is, you know, the traditional, like, how do we do this? I think a lot of the traditional methods still work, but we really need to be online savvy in order to maximize our benefit, particularly for certain audiences. The other thing I included this because I just wanted to show you again when we were talking about how people continue to be generous despite hardship. So this survey was about in 2020 when we spent the year pretty much in lockdown. And a lot of people were out of work, they were furloughed, different expenses. And in this survey, 54% just thought, I'll keep donating the same, 25% said more. Only 9% said less, 12% weren't sure. So you can see, and oftentimes in times of struggle, that is when people give. And we're going to talk a lot about how people give to their means, and they're in this book talks, particularly, I think it's yours for the asking. Maybe it's in this one. It talks about this idea of, you know, people are okay with giving away what they have and sharing what they have. So again, super broad, but I think it's good to have that context. And again, also look at the historical nature. I think the other thing that's important to always remember whenever you're engaged in any sort of fundraising is to remember that there are legal ramifications for what you're doing. If you are a registered nonprofit. And again, and now, you know, there are things like GoFundMe, so we can fundraise for individuals. That is not a nonprofit organization, but that has become a huge source. Now, nonprofit organizations themselves will do kind of fundraising. There's also platforms like Donors Choose. I know my husband's an elementary school teacher, and a lot of the teachers will put up projects and people can go on and fund those. And there's just a lot out there. So again, though, my goal for this class is you to have a general sense of that. But then beyond that, to really start to look at, again, how do we communicate with the public to maximize the donations that we will receive? And there's a lot to go into that. And how do we make an argument? And then once we get that money, again, how are organizations good stewards of that money, and how do they communicate that stewardship? So for this week, for the first week, there's the initial discussion question. So please look at that and respond to that and be commenting. Also, and I mentioned this in my overview video, there is a group project for this class where you're going to develop a fundraising plan for an organization of your choice. This is set up as a group project. However, again, I recognize some people, the group aspect is more challenging or just not something you're interested in doing. So you are welcome to work as a group of one and complete the project. I just ask, please email me by next Saturday because I'll put everyone into groups Sunday otherwise if I have not heard from you. So again, welcome to class. Have a great week. If you have any questions at all, do not hesitate to email or put them on that Ask a Question board. And I hope you guys have a great week.